Hi, we're Christine and Danny Bellish, real estate investors based out of New Jersey, with a background working in sales and marketing in the New York City advertising industry. We'd never raised private money before, but our first time trying, we raised $1.5 million for a 291-unit acquisition in Cleveland, which was also our first time as members of the General Partnership Group for a real estate syndication. We thought it might be helpful to share our experience with you.
We want to talk quickly about some outreach tips that we have when you are thinking about reaching out to investors.
So communication and marketing is obviously huge here, and we're lucky enough to come from that type of background in the corporate world. So especially in the digital and social space. So first and foremost is social media, right? It is a free mode of communication to anyone and everyone that participates in that platform. One thing I will quickly say is for some deals in syndication, you cannot publicly advertise. So you have to be really thoughtful about what you're actually putting out there. So what we did was we tried to be really educational about syndication in general. It wasn't about this particular deal and the numbers about this deal and why people should invest in this deal. But sometimes it was about how hot this market is or what syndication is and how it works and how people earn money passively. So that's something you really need to participate in. The other thing with social media is you want to entertain, right? You want people to be attracted to the content that you're putting out. You want it to be personable and you want to show people your personality. And with social media, you need to be consistent. So that's posting almost every single day.
Another way that we reached out to potential investors was through email. The great thing about email is that you can communicate with somebody in a longer form. So versus in social media, which are like quick captions or very visual format, or through text message, which is usually like a shorter format too. In email, if you're looking to really dive deep into the deal details and you want to include attachments, etc., or like links to videos or any different collateral that you have, marketing materials for this deal, you can include that in an email. But one thing that I would say is, we want to be mindful of the fact that people's inboxes are overwhelmed. Like, speaking from personal experience, I have like 60,000
I'm sure you guys do too.
And marketing emails on my phone right now. So you want to really be respectful of that, and you want to be cognizant of it. You don't want to be spamming people with emails, sending emails constantly. So for us, our tactic is that, our strategy is that we only like to email people a couple times a month. I would say once a week max. And that's really only if you have something like an update or something important to say. But when we're reaching out to somebody about a deal, I would say maybe once every 2 weeks to follow up.
So next up is text messages, something that Christine alluded to earlier. And it all comes down to two things mainly when we're talking about text messages. Number one is length, right? You really kind of want to keep it short and concise. I made the mistake of sending some really long, informative text messages at the very beginning and got responses like, wow, that was so long. So avoid that, be to the point, and be friendly, of course, when you can. But at the same token, make sure who you're talking to is receptive to how you're sending it, right? It might differentiate between an old boss of yours or a buddy of yours. You still, even though it's text message and it might seem informal, depending on who it is, you might want to keep some level of formality and be able to cater to who that person is and the level of professionalism that they expect from you.
Yeah, so your level of relationship with that person, how close you are with them or not, is going to dictate the formality or the informality of the way that you reach out, and also the frequency of your follow-up in a text message.
And you can mirror them also. Always mirror people and how they respond. If they respond more informal, then you get more informal and friendly, and that's okay, but always keep it professional.
And the same thing too with the length. If somebody is sending a long, very intricate and detail-oriented response, you can do that too, but don't get into those long, lengthy, detail-oriented responses in text unless somebody's doing that first. I am guilty of that myself too. Okay, but now that we're talking about the phone, like, so one way to outreach somebody is text. The other way is an old-fashioned phone call.
It's not so old-fashioned. It really works.
It really does. I mean, listen, like, especially in these COVID days, you're not able to be face-to-face with everybody, and the next best thing besides Zoom is to actually hop on the phone with somebody. There's definitely something that's lost through digital communication, through text message and through email. Not being able to hear somebody's voice, not being able to hear their inflection, and not being able to like ask questions and respond in real time. So phone calls are great if you can get them. I would say, aim for a phone call with as many people as possible if you can't get them in person.
I will also say that there is, a generation of people who still love phone calls. They want to be on the phone. They want to talk on the phone. They might call you every single day, but you have to answer that phone and you have to be receptive and friendly for that phone call. The next thing, just to bring it into a little bit of a new generation, is of course your Zooms, your webinars, things where you have some form of digital communication. That's great to actually be able to get face-to-face time. What you're gonna find in real estate syndication is not all of your investors may be local, right? But you still wanna make sure that you have that friendly look and touch, that you can set up that type of webinar, that type of Zoom, and really have some face-to-face time with that individual, and take your time. Don't rush anybody off the call. Don't rush anybody off the conference, and make sure that you give them the time of day and build that relationship.
Yeah, and I think building on the phone call benefits, Zoom takes it a level further, because like you can actually see somebody face to face even if you're not literally physically sitting across from each other. Like you can see somebody's expressions and their mannerisms, and you can feel like you're getting to know somebody better even if you physically aren't together. And just to mention quickly, like one thing that we did for this deal was that we hosted a live webinar, which we promoted prior to it happening to our network, and we invited people to come, and we reviewed all of the details about the deal, and then at the end our investors were able to ask questions live, and we went on, it went on for about like an hour and a half, and we were answering questions live. So piggybacking off of Danny saying, like, don't cut people short, like give people the time of day, be patient, be as informative and educational as possible. We really did that in the Zoom, and outside of the official webinar that we had hosted, we also did send that out to everybody in our network as a link so that they could actually watch that as an email for anybody who wanted to rewatch it, rewind back, remind themselves of something that we might have covered there, or for people who missed it and they couldn't join us live, they could also watch it and hear us explain it and walk through the deal. And the other thing that we did too besides that was also to set up one-on-one Zooms with people as possible. One
little webinar tip that I learned from a good friend of mine in the business is to do your webinar at the beginning of the week. People don't necessarily talk business on the weekend, so if you do it on a Thursday or Friday, you might lose some momentum. At the beginning of the week, you're set up for success. The very last thing that I hold near and dear to my heart, which is probably my favorite reason for being in the real estate business, is to do things that are fun and in person. The more that you could go out to drinks with somebody, go out to dinner with somebody, go to a ball game, play
memories.
Golf, do things that are actually fun for the both of you. The more of a positive experience that they could have with you, they will take that home with them, and when they're thinking about opportunities with you, they will not only think more favorably, but they will trust you. And this whole thing comes down to trust. If they trust you, they will invest with you.
Yeah, and it goes back to the other thing too, which is people are more likely to work with people who they like. So be likable, be personable, go out there and have fun, and you will see the most success.
And use all of the modes of communication that are available to you, and use them in the right ways. This is part of a series where we share our experience and some tips about how to raise private money. We hope this is helpful. If you want to learn more, be sure to like and subscribe and check out the rest of the series. If you have any questions, we're always here.